This is our city. This is where we live. This is where we breathe in and breathe out the daily rhythms of life. Waking and sleeping, dreaming and building, playing and working. It is here where we live Coram Deo, lives in community with God and others, bringing us to the table and to the font. Coram Deo helps us to see God at work in the world. God's vision for the future is something in which we get to participate, and so God chooses to use us. He desires to do through us what He has done in us. Journeys Church has had a rich and meaningful story over the last 10 years. You have provided a safe place for people to reconnect with the family of God. You have offered your creative gifts as acts of worship. You have prayed for each other in times of crisis. You have been witness to each other's lives, encouraging and celebrating each new season that life brings. Yet, I feel we are dislocated. And how can we not be? Over 10 years, we have met in 8 different locations. How has this shaped us as a church? How has this influenced our sense of stability and lasting? It causes me to think of the word sojourn, which means to stay somewhere temporarily. Is it possible that all these little stops have given Journeys a unique identity and potential for mission, without us even realizing it? Imagine, what would it look like if we worshipped where we live? What would it look like if families saw themselves as mini churches? What would it look like if groups of these families gathered together and practiced generosity and compassion? What would it look like if we understood that loving God and loving our neighbor occurs in the everyday mundane of our lives? What would it look like if we intentionally connected church and home and we sojourned between the two? God's story reveals the earliest Christians sojourning between temple and home. They committed themselves to the teaching of the apostles, the life together, the common meal, and the prayers. Everyone around was in awe, and all the believers lived in a wonderful harmony, holding everything in common. They sold whatever they owned and pooled the resources so that each person's need was met. What if our dislocation is God's unique gift to us, giving us the freedom and permission to gather together in a similar pattern? To gather as families in our neighborhoods, living out Christ-centered community in an atmosphere of prayer and worship, but also gathering as one large family, sharing stories and celebrating what God is doing among us. What if our dislocation allows us to experience more fully how God is at work through us as He calls us to love our neighbor, whoever they are, wherever they may be found? What if our dislocation leads to our relocation, worshiping together and practicing the life of Christ where we live?